What's going on, guys? Welcome to the channel. If you're new here, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Today we got the BombMoto B1 2024 and we're going to be doing an unboxing today. Next video we'll go ahead and show you the differences between the 2024 and the older 2023 model. So look forward to that in the next video, but today we're going to show you what's inside the box. We're going to throw it all together, and I'm stoked, man. I can't wait to sit on it. So let's get right into it. Alright guys, so I have already opened the box up and kind of took a peek inside, so this is going to be a little bit easier for me. Keep this short and sweet. Take the box off itself, and then right off the bat we have a box on top. Let's go ahead and show you what's inside the box itself. So we have our mud guard for the rear. Let's see, we got our foot pegs. We'll get into those in a little bit. We have our handlebar pads. Nice. Instructions. Don't need those. And then we have our faceplate. We'll be using that here in a little bit. Nice. We have an extra chain as well. That's going to come in handy. I know all you guys are riding super hard out there. Looks like we have a battery strap. We'll see how well this works later on. Small toolkit. That way, if you don't have a bunch of tools laying around, at least you have these to use to get your bike together. Looks like we have our front axle, and we got looks like miscellaneous lock nuts and some bolts, sticky foam pads that we can put down for our battery. That way our battery isn't sliding around. The last thing, we have our little shock collar adjuster. I'm pretty sure, at least either that or it is for the head tube, so we'll find out here in a minute. So that's going to be in our first box. Next up we have our front wheel. That is just going to pop out nice and easy like so. We'll go ahead and sit this down on the bubble wrap off to the side. Keep that nice and safe. And then we have our shocks right here. Pull it out the side right here. Pull this out the bubble wrap real quick. And man, this thing is looking good. It's got some new caps for this year instead of the red. Looking pretty sick. So go ahead and set that off to the side. And then I believe next up we just need to take the crate apart. So we'll just go around and unbolt all the way around. So I'm going to go ahead and pop the top of this crate off. Actually going to do it from the bottom. So what we're going to need is a 14mm socket and a 14mm box wrench. These are included in your little toolkit, so you can do it with those. And then for the handlebars, where the bar mounts are attached to this bar, we'll be using a 6mm Allen. So let's go ahead and knock this out. I'll speed it up for you so you don't gotta watch the boring parts. Alright you guys, we got the bike up on the stand in a great position. So this is actually going to make this a lot easier to get the shock on. So we'll go ahead and take the nut and the bolt out. Slide that into position. Just thread our bolt through. You might have to push up or down just a little bit. We'll get our bolt through and our nut on. Simple as that. Cool, so I'll get this tightened up and then we'll move on to the front. Next thing we're going to do is move on to the front end, put the forks on. Before we jump ahead though, what we want to do is kind of sort out all these wires. So you got your two brake cables that are run through this little hole. I would suggest pulling them out, that way we can run them nice and clean in a little bit. The front brake, we'll go ahead and set that to the side for right now, since it is just free floating. And then the important thing is for the rear brake is to make sure that it's coming through the center. That way when we put our fork tubes through, it's not on the outside or, you know, over here, causing you to have to take your forks back off and put them back on. Makes it super inconvenient. So we'll go ahead and unbox our fork tubes and we will put them on our nice triple trees. This is going to be 4 M6, or excuse me, 6mm Allens. Now, another thing you want to pay attention to when you're putting these forks on is which side goes to what. So the main thing you want to look for is the brake bracket right here. So you just want to make sure that this is going to be on the left side of the bike. So if you're sitting on the bike, it'll be your left hand. So we want to make sure to put that up through here. Now, depending on your height, you can actually move these up a little bit, something like this, or move these down right level with the cap itself. That way, if you're a bit of a shorter rider, it'll help with the seat height. And my nice little ratcheting tool that Alloy Man sent me. Just did a video on these recently. If you guys want to check that out, they do have a 10% discount for you guys as well in the description. So we'll go ahead, turn this to the side. Now we're just going to go a little bit of hand tight right now. We don't want to go crazy with these because they are very, very easy to strip out. So just get them nice and tight by hand, and then we'll go maybe 90 degrees. So this, 90 degrees. Anything tighter and you're going to smush the clamps, either stretching them out to where they touch each other, or you're going to strip the threads. It's very important you don't do that. So get them snug and then hit it with a 90 and you should be good to go. This one does not have a brake bracket on it, so we know this goes onto our right side. And then we will level it with our other fork tube. Take our tool, snug up the bottom. Bottom will hold that in place now. Hit our top. And then again, once we're snug, hit it with a 90 degrees. Just like that, 1/4 of a turn, 90 degrees. If this starts feeling real tight, back off, you're done. That's all you need. So that's gonna do it for the forks. Again, make sure your back brake is through the triple tree in between the shock tubes. So we'll go ahead and put these on the bars later. But for now, we'll hang that out of the way. And next up, I believe, let's throw the front wheel on. So we got our front wheel and our rotor side being on the left again. And from our box of parts, we have our front axle. Now with your front axle, you'll have 2 wheel spacers. When you put these on, you'll have a longer one and a shorter one. The longer one you want to put on the brake side. So make sure we put our short one on the opposite side. Let's go ahead and hang our wheel. Be careful because it's going to add a lot of weight and it will bring the front end down, so try not to drop your bike. Go ahead, get that through just enough to where we see it poke out the other side. Put our other spacer on, and then we'll go ahead and move that right into place. I'm kind of slightly holding the front end up with my other hand, that way the bike does not drop. As you can see, we're kind of leveling out right here. So I'm just going to thread that on there real quick and adjust the bike. Perfect. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and tighten the nut down. And then what we can do from there is run the front brake up. Now I also wanted to mention that the nut is a 17mm and the actual axle bolt is a 14. Again, all stuff that will come in your box. Get that nice and snug, just like so. This is a locking nut, so you don't need to crank it down too hard. Nice and snug. All right, guys, so let's go ahead and move on to our brake. So it looks like we're going to need a Phillips head to pull the brake line holder. But we can do that here in just a second. Now we'll go to our front brake. What we are going to want to do is run this around and down into here. So you'll notice you have this little black piece of plastic. Hang on to that until you're ready to put it onto the disc itself. That's going to prevent it from accidentally squeezing the lever and pushing the pistons out to where you can't get the pads separated. So let's run this through the middle, just like so, and take our bolts out. And then we are going to slide the brake pads over the rotor, just like so. I know this is all probably super black, so you can't see nothing. And then we'll line it up with the holes. Put our bolts through. Tighten these suckers down. Then what you want to do is run these through the inside. That way if you go down, the street won't completely destroy your brake lines. So we'll go ahead, unscrew this right here, run our brake line through there, screw it back down, and then this will be ready to run to our handlebars. Bit of a closer look. Now just let you know these are at 8mm. Like I said, also included in your little kit. Brake line is running up. It's running behind the fork in the center of the wheel, not touching anything, running up through the little clamp, and then it'll go up behind the faceplate and then onto the bars. This piece right here, now I would like to run this down by the wheel here, that way it has a little bit extra protection. So get this out of the way real quick. I'm going to go ahead, unscrew this, and then I'm going to pull this sleeve down. That way it wraps around here for a little bit of added protection, and it gives it a little bit more width to hang on to down here at the brake line clamp. So let me go ahead and pop that on. Up, we are going to grab our handlebars, grab our front brake, our rear brake right here, run that through the bars like so. And then we'll take our front brake, making sure this is right in front of everything. Go ahead, slide that on just like so. Actually, looks like I'll have to loosen these up a bit. Slide that on. And we'll go ahead and put our bar clamps down just to kind of hold those in the position right there. As we were getting so super close, so next up we have our number plate and we have our fender. Now normally you would put your fender up here and your number plate will slide into here, and then you just bolt this on. These triple clamps are a little bit different than the ones from last year. So the front of it is going to bolt straight into the triple clamp. Hopefully you guys can see that, the little hole right there. So the last one had a little metal bracket that raised it up a little bit. With this one, it's down a little bit more and there's no bracket. So what we will need to do is install the number plate first, and then we will put the front fender on, and we'll kind of squish it a little bit and push it up, but it's not a big deal. So let's go ahead and do this real quick. So you will have a bolt right here and then 3 bolts down at the bottom. Now what I like to do is get it ready. We'll put the bolt onto the Allen key, slide that in like so. Now take our rear brake, kind of push that in a little bit, get it out of the way. Put our front brake back on, and what we have here is this little tab. So that's going to hold on to the front brake itself. So we want to slide the front brake line into it just like so. Hopefully you can see that. And then what we'll do is go ahead, line it up with our hole, carefully screwing it in. You do not want to cross thread this. You do have a little bit of tension from the brake lines, so just be careful as you're doing it. You know, make sure you're not forcing the bolt in. You want it to go in nice and easy, just like that. Now we're going to move on to the front fender. So the easiest way I found to put this on, again, we'll take our bolt, put it on our Allen, and then you'll see here you have 2 of these backmost holes. Go ahead, slide that one on just like so. Then we will line those up in the posts of the number plate, and we'll go ahead and screw that back one in being careful not to strip it out. We'll make sure you get it up, lined up nice and smoothly. We'll go ahead and tighten that on just like so. Not all the way yet. And we'll go to that back hole. On the other side, same thing. Line that bolt up nice and smooth, not to strip out the threads. And then we'll go ahead and tighten that up. And you'll start to see it kind of lift up. Tighten the other one down a bit. And that is going to help you line up the front one. So we'll go ahead, thread that through. And it lines it up beautifully. And then as you start to thread it up, you'll start to notice it kind of pushes up on this. Just tighten it nice and good and everything will fall right into place. Now, if you're like me and you forgot to run your brakes through, very simple. Just run it through here like so. Slide it in behind the fork tube. Same with this one. Going to run all this behind and down with the brake sensor on the other side. Actually, you know what? We'll run it down with the actual back brake line. Just like so. We'll go up over the head tube and then back into the side panels itself. That way keep it nice and clean just like that. And there we have it. We have our front end pretty much put together. Now we'll still need to go and tighten our bar clamps down, but before I do that, I actually like to sit on it. That way I know where exactly I want the bars to be sitting. Then of course, once you get the bars out down to where you want them, go ahead and put your bar pad on. Pretty easy. I'm sure you guys can figure that out. Now the last batch of B1s, I was seeing a lot of foot pegs going on wrong. So I'm going to do my best to explain how to put these on correctly. So you'll have two pegs, obviously left and right. Now you'll know which one is the correct one. Obviously this is correct and this one is wrong. So we know this will be on the side. Now what we want to do with our spring is we want to make sure we have the correct one. So with the peg sitting up facing you, you want the bigger box end to be on top. Slide that in just like so, and then twist it towards the pegs. Now you're going to have the small spring sitting down below. Basically, you just want to hook it onto the edge of this right here. And then you're going to push down like so. You're going to take your pin, slide it on through just like so. Hopefully you guys can see that okay. And there we have the correct installation of the foot peg and the retention spring. Then of course, we want to take our cotter pin, put it through the pin itself, and then we'll go ahead and expand it. All right, here we have the other side. Again, we're our smaller square of the spring. We're pushing down just like that. Put our pin through. And again, we have our foot peg on correct. Then put our cotter pin and we are done and done. We're getting very, very close to being finished. The last piece we need to install is our mud flap. So what we are going to do is go to our wing nut at the bottom of the seat here, and we'll go ahead, unscrew that. And then we'll come to the top of the seat, lift up, pull back, and our seat is off. Go ahead, set that to the side right here. And now you'll notice you have two bolts right here, two 10mm nuts, 5mm Allens. Grab those from our toolkit. Grab the open end wrench, put it on the nut there, come to the back side, grab your Allen, and we'll go ahead and unscrew both of these. Now what I like to do before I install the mud flap is put a little hole down at the bottom in the center of here. You may have seen this in a short I posted a while ago, but basically I'll show you a trick here in just a second. So I like to go about a 1/2 inch from the bottom, right in the middle here, and then right through the center. Put a little hole right there, just like so, and then I'll show you what we're going to do with that here in just a second. So now we'll focus our attention back up here, and we'll go ahead and put that just like so. Grab our bolt, put it up through. We're going to hold that. Then we grab our nut, throw it into the backside, just kind of reach your hand in there. Go ahead and screw that nut on. Then grabbing our Allen and our box end wrench, we'll hold the nut with our box end and tighten this up just a little bit. We'll tighten it fully in just a second. Grab our second bolt, put that in there, get our second nut on, and then we can finish up, get our box end on the nut back here, and we'll get that nice and tight. All right, now I'll show you a trick with the little hole that I made. Let's go to our little box of parts, and we'll grab one of these zip ties. Now these ones are pretty thin, so if you have some thicker ones, it would be a good idea to grab a thicker one. You'll notice the mud flap, as it's resting, it kind of sits on the tire, and if you go to back up, the knobbies grab it. So it's kind of an inconvenience, but it's not too big of a deal. Now if you'll notice through the shock hoop right here, the shock brackets right here, we got a little hole that we can go through, and then we can wrap underneath here. So I will go ahead and take my zip tie, run it through the hole just like so, put that into place, and then back here I'm just running it under the shock. Bring that back down, and then I will loop it back up and zip tie it down just like so. And of course we'll take my snips and I will cut off the excess, but that is going to keep it nice and snug in here. Now also, if you have a heat gun or a blow dryer might work. You can heat this and shape it into place as well. Whatever works for you. This just happens to be super easy for me. So yeah, cool little trick. We are officially put together. Well, I'd say about 90%. All that's left is for you to sit down on the bike, adjust the bars however you would like. Go ahead, tighten them down. Just like the triple clamp bolts that we were talking about earlier, you want to snug them down to where they're nice and even on both sides. So you should have the same gap on this side as you do on the other side. Get them nice and snug. Give them a little 90, tug on the bars, make sure they're good. If not, maybe give it a little bit more. Just don't go crazy on these. You don't want to stretch the clamps. You don't want to ruin the threads. But yeah, just sit down on the bike, adjust these how you would like. Figure out where you want the brake levers once you put on your new grips and stuff, and your throttle. Figure out where you like those, tighten those down, same technique, and you are good to go. Another thing I would like to mention is I like to thoroughly go through the bike and inspect each and every bolt and nut that I can. Make sure everything's nice and tight, nothing is loose. Last thing you need to do is go out ripping this thing and something falls off on you. So make sure you give it a good inspection. Come down here, make sure your brake's on tight. Another thing you'll want to do, at least in my case, is I like to loosen the rear wheel, because as you can see, this chain is very tight. And get this out the way. What I like to do is go right at the edge here where the chain slider stops, and I like to give it about 2 fingers worth. As you can see here, we got about 1 1/4 finger. So I'm going to go ahead and loosen this up and adjust it. Once you are finished, you should be left with this right here. You got your manual, you got your little sticky foam pads for the battery tray. Obviously you got your chain right here, your toolkit, and it looks like these were just spare nuts and bolts. You have your battery strap, and then this mystery guy. So it looks like this will actually work for both your lock collar on your head tube. So if you notice your head tube is getting a little loose, you can use this to tighten it up. And then of course tighten your cap nut. And then also This one's a little bit trickier. You will have to take your plastics off because it is up in there. But that also has a lock collar. You can kind of see it's a little shiny, but you'll be able to use this as well to adjust your sag. That is going to do it for this video. I'm sure it's already extremely long. Apologies for that. Apologize for the lighting. It looks like it is going to be pretty overcast and rainy the next couple of days, so I did want to get this out to you guys. So I did my best to try to make it look somewhat decent. But yeah. So that's going to do it for this video. In the next video, we're going to go ahead and tear it all back down, and I'm going to show you what is different between the 2023 model and the 2024. Now, just looking at it, I'm sure you guys have noticed quite a bit. But like I said, we'll go into more detail on that. In the video after that, I will go ahead and show you my little parts pile of goodies that I got for this thing. Show you guys what we're doing. You guys have been watching my shorts. You know I've been messing with the Flipski 75-200 Pro. So we're going to be slapping a vest into this thing. Very stoked about that. Yeah, guys, hope you enjoyed. If you guys are grabbing a B1 for yourself and this video helped you, let me know down in the comments. And if you're new here, hit that subscribe button. We're almost to 3K. Let's get us there. All right, guys.